Hello, and welcome back to the Striha Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Parker Striha, and on today's episode, we are going to be going over my third NFL mock draft. I'm by no means a professional, but I do love talking about sports, so thank you for joining me. For this mock draft, picks are going to be made in the way I would make them, just like my previous one. They're all made as if I was the GM of every team, and it was my decision to choose what player they get. These aren't picks I think the team should make, it's just what I would do. And this draft will also be my first and possibly only mock draft with trades. I'm not really going to go in depth on any of the players. I'm more so just going to state what team is picking them and why I think that team is picking them, or why I would pick them for that team. So without further ado, with the number one overall pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Aiden Hutchinson, an edge rusher from Michigan. He's the best player in this draft class according to a lot of people, and I don't think a team like Jacksonville can pass up on Aiden Hutchinson. That team doesn't have a lot of talent. They spent a lot of money in free agency, but I don't know how much that actually improved their team. So go out, get arguably the best edge rusher, the best player in the class, and just try to build the talent up on your roster. With the number 2 overall pick, the Detroit Lions select Travon Walker, an edge rusher from Georgia. Like with the Jaguars, the Lions don't have a lot of talent on that team, so I think get Travon Walker, who can come in and be an instant starter on that defensive side of the ball, and you just kind of let him go to work. Could be a day one starter in my opinion, and you're really banking on the athletic upside, but he has the tools to be a top tier edge rusher in the league. With the number 3 overall pick, the Houston Texans select Ahmad Gardner, a cornerback from Cincinnati. Best cornerback in the entire class. I think there's really no argument about that. And like the first 2 picks, the Texans don't have a lot of talent, so get a guy that you can rely on the outside. You can trust that he's going to lock down most receivers that he's guarding, and you kind of just go from there. You can build the rest of the team, but I think they need a number 1 corner that they can have for years to come, and that is Ahmad Gardner. With the number 4 overall pick, the New York Jets select Kayvon Thibodeau, an edge rusher from Oregon. This is kind of a trend. Doesn't have a lot. This team is not super talented, so get arguably one of the best players in the entire class. Thibodeau is a freak edge rusher, and the Jets really need help with that position. They don't really have a lot of pass rushers that I think are great. So get Kayvon Thibodeau, can be an instant starter, and he's going to be a franchise guy for the foreseeable future. With the number 5 overall pick, the New York Giants select Ikem Ekwonu, a tackle from North Carolina State. Giants, their offensive line is super bad. They did sign a couple guys in free agency, but they're both old, and they're not going to be in the future plans of the New York Giants. Get Ekwonu, who can be your starter at either guard position, or you can play him at right tackle, and I think he'll excel either way. With the number 6 overall pick, the Carolina Panthers select Evan Neal, a tackle out of Alabama. Now, Panthers, once again, their offensive line is awful, especially that left tackle position. I don't trust having Cam Irving out there, so get Evan Neal, who could easily be flip-flopped with Ekwonu as the best tackle in this class, and if I'm Carolina, I run this card up and take him without even hesitating. He is an athletic freak. Get him there. He can protect whoever your franchise quarterback is going to be. With the number 7 overall pick, the New York Giants select Kyle Hamilton, a safety from Notre Dame. Now, he's listed as a safety, but I think for the Giants he'd be played more as a linebacker. He's 6'4", 220, not great in coverage, really. And the Giants just need talent on that defensive side of the ball, and I think Hamilton can be an instant day one starter, just like Ekwonu can on opposite sides of the ball. And I just think that's a smart pick. It may not be the safest pick, but I think it's a smart pick for the Giants. With the number 8 overall pick, the Atlanta Falcons select Garrett Wilson, a wide receiver from Ohio State. Plain and simple, Olamide Zaccheaus and Frank Darby cannot be your number 1 receiver. I don't care which one of them it would be. You need to get someone in there with Calvin Ridley being out the entire year. So get arguably the best receiver in the class, Garrett Wilson, and he's probably going to put up insane numbers because he's going to be probably the second or third threat, or the second or third guy on that offense. He's going to be one of their main weapons, plain and simple, other than like Kyle Pitts. With the number 9 overall pick, the Seattle Seahawks select Malik Willis, a quarterback out of Liberty. I don't trust Drew Lock to be their starting quarterback. I don't trust Jacob Eason to be their starting quarterback. Get the quarterback with arguably the most upside in this year's draft, and you can kind of go from there. If you keep both DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, you have two guys that Malik Willis can count on, and I think that would be perfect for his rookie year. With the 10th overall pick, the Kansas City Chiefs select Drake London, a wide receiver out of USC. So this is the first trade in this mock draft. The New York Jets trade pick 10 to the Kansas City Chiefs for pick 29 and pick 30. The Kansas City Chiefs need a big-bodied guy that can get those jump balls for Patrick Mahomes. I don't really like their receiving room after losing Tyreek Hill and Demarcus Robinson and Byron Pringle. I don't really trust it, don't really like that receiving room. So get Drake London, athletic freak, he's massive, and you can kind of go from there. I think he'd be one of Patrick Mahomes' favorite weapons. With the 11th overall pick, the Washington Commanders select Charles Cross, a tackle out of Mississippi State. They need a good starting left tackle. I don't think Charles Leno is their guy for the future. Get Charles Cross, arguably the best pass protector in this entire class, and you can kind of just go from there. With the number 12 overall pick, the Minnesota Vikings select Derek Stingley Jr., a cornerback out of LSU. They need a number 1 corner. I don't really like their cornerback group, so get Derek Stingley, who has extremely high upside, and you can kind of just give him the keys to that defense, and he can be one of your best players right away. There are some question marks with him, but I don't think Minnesota's going to really put up with that, and I think they're willing to take a chance on the upside that Derek Stingley brings. With the 13th overall pick, the Houston Texans select Jermaine Johnson II, an edge rusher out of Florida State. He killed the combine, killed his pro day, killed the Senior Bowl, one of the best edge rushers in this class, and the Texans just need talent on that defensive side of the ball. They got Gardner earlier. Get Jermaine Johnson, who can help put pressure on that quarterback, which also makes Gardner's job easier. With the 14th overall pick, the Baltimore Ravens select Trevor Penning, a tackle from Northern Iowa. They need a right tackle. I don't trust Morgan Moses to be their guy. So bring in Trevor Penning, who is, I believe, a left tackle, but he can slide over and play right tackle. And then you have another guy who you can trust to protect Lamar Jackson. With the 15th overall pick, the Philadelphia Eagles select Jamison Williams, a wide receiver from Alabama. They need a deep threat, and I think they need a deep threat on that team. A lot of their guys are mainly underneath guys. Devontae Smith can be a solid deep threat, but I think bring in Jamison Williams, not Smith. Bring in Jamison Williams, who has, I believe, legit 4.3, 4.4 speed. He wasn't able to test this year because of an ACL tear, but I believe he has probably the most speed out of any receiver in this class. He'd come in, when he's healthy, he'd be one of your top 2 or 3 receivers right away. With the 16th overall pick, the Philadelphia Eagles select Kaiir Elam, a cornerback from Florida. They need an outside guy alongside Darius Slay, and I think Kaiir Elam is that guy. He ran really fast this year, and he is, I believe, 6'1 or 6'2, so he is a bigger corner, and I think that's exactly what they need. I think they have their slot guy in Avonte Maddox, so get that outside corner that you can pair with Darius Slay. With the 17th overall pick, the Los Angeles Chargers select Devonte Wyatt, a defensive tackle from Georgia. He's probably the most, I won't say the most athletic defensive tackle in this class because Jordan Davis was also crazy at the combine, but they need a guy on that defensive line who can rush the passer while also taking up a lot of blocks, and I think Devonte Wyatt is that, probably the best pass rushing defensive tackle in this entire class, and he goes to a Charger team that is looking to compete this year, and for years to come. With the 18th overall pick, the New Orleans Saints select Devin Lloyd, a linebacker out of Utah. Now, this might be a questionable pick. This might be early for him, depending on who you ask, but I don't think Demario Davis is their guy of the future because he is getting a little bit older. Zach Bond, I don't think, has shown anything. They really don't have anything in that linebacker room that has shown. They don't have anyone there that has shown me that they are the Saints' next franchise linebacker. So bring in Devin Lloyd, athletic freak. I think he's 6'3", 230, 240. Put up insane stats this last year at Utah and is arguably the best linebacker in the class. And he can learn from Demario Davis and then will be your franchise linebacker for 10, 15 years. With the 19th overall pick, the Philadelphia Eagles select Jordan Davis, a defensive tackle from Georgia. Now, I think you could easily flip-flop Devontae Wyatt and Jordan Davis in where they get picked, but I have the Eagles taking Jordan Davis. Just a guy that can go in there and can instantly eat up blocks, which frees up opportunities for Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat, Derek Barnett, Hassan Reddick. It just frees up opportunities for all of their pass rushers. And Jordan Davis, he's going to take up 2 or 3 guys every single play just because he is so big and he's also extremely athletic. So he is probably, if they're taking him at pick 19, he is most likely their replacement for Fletcher Cox in the long run. With the 20th overall pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Kenny Pickett, a quarterback out of Pittsburgh. I mean, the story kind of writes itself. He played his college games at Heinz Field. He played at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh needs a quarterback. I mean, it kind of writes itself. He's, in my opinion, a top 2 quarterback in the entire class. So send him to Pittsburgh, who has the defense that is ready to compete. I don't know if he'd be their day one starter, but I assume he would be, and I think he would be pretty dang good. With the 21st overall pick, the New England Patriots select Trent McDuffie, a cornerback out of Washington. I think their cornerback room is awful. I don't trust Malcolm Butler. I don't trust Jalen Mills. I don't trust Sean Wade. Trent McDuffie, I think, could probably be their number 1 corner right away. He's not the biggest, but he has extremely good ball skills, and I think he's a guy that Bill Belichick would like to have in the building. With the 22nd overall pick, the Green Bay Packers select Kenyon Green, a guard from Texas A&M. Now, he didn't test really well at the combine, but he has flexibility on the offensive line. Green Bay is most likely going to be without Elton Jenkins for at least a decent part of the year with an ACL tear. So bring in Green, who can either fill in at that left guard spot or they can kick out to right tackle or even to right guard. I think he'd be an instant starter and an instant upgrade over what they have on that offensive line. With the 23rd overall pick, the Arizona Cardinals select Boye Mafe, an edge rusher from Minnesota. They need help on that edge after losing Chandler Jones, and I think Boye Mafe and his elite athleticism would be perfect for that defense. He can learn a lot from J.J. Watt, and Arizona wants to compete this year. If he was healthy, I'd have them taking David Ojabo, but Boye Mafe is healthy. He's extremely athletic, and I think he would be a perfect fit for the Cardinals. With the 24th overall pick, the Dallas Cowboys select Tyler Linderbaum, a center from Iowa. They need help on that offensive line. They lost Lyle Collins. Their center is bad. I don't really think their left guard is that good. Tyron Smith is always hurt, so get Linderbaum, who is a day 1 starter at center. He's immediately better than Tyler Biadasz or whoever else they're starting there. He's arguably the best interior offensive lineman in this class, and Dallas is looking to compete, so get a day 1 starter, and I think it's a perfect pick. With the 25th overall pick, the Buffalo Bills select Andrew Booth Jr., a cornerback from Clemson. They need a solid number 2 corner outside of Tre'Davious White, and I think they get that in Andrew Booth. Extremely athletic, extremely long, and I mean, if you can have a guy alongside Tre'Davious White that you can trust one-on-one, I think you got to make that pick. He may not be great right away, but I think he is a great pick for the Bills. With the 26th overall pick, the Tennessee Titans select David Ojabo, an edge rusher from Michigan. Now, he is going to miss most of, if not the entire year, with an Achilles tear, but Tennessee has Bud Dupree and they have Harold Landry at their starting edges, so David Ojabo doesn't need to be rushed back, and after this year, if he is healthy, they can get rid of Bud Dupree and David Ojabo can be their instant starter. With the 27th overall pick, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select George Karlaftis, an edge out of Purdue. Their defensive line isn't great. I think they lost a lot of depth this offseason. So get George Karlaftis, who is one of the better edge rushers in this entire class. I don't exactly know how he would fit into their scheme, but I know Todd Bowles would find a way. I know that they'd find a way to use him in the most effective way possible, and he'd somehow end up getting 15 sacks his rookie year just because that Buccaneers coaching staff, I think, is really good. With the 28th overall pick, the Washington Commanders select George Pickens, a wide receiver from Georgia. This is the second trade I have in this mock draft. I have Green Bay trading pick 28 to the Washington Commanders for wide receiver Terry McLaurin. Now, I don't really know if I don't think it's super likely, but as a Green Bay fan, I would love to have Terry McLaurin in the building. I think he'd be an immediate number one receiver, and I think it would be best for him to go from a really bad team with awful quarterback play for his entire career, go to Green Bay. You get to play with Aaron Rodgers, who is arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and you can put up he's been putting up good numbers with bad quarterbacks, so just imagine what he could do with a Hall of Fame quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. I think it kind of writes itself with them trading Terry McLaurin to Green Bay. They need a guy that can come in and be their number one receiver, so they get George Pickens. I think he's 6'3", 210, 215, extremely long, extremely athletic, and is one of the best jump ball guys, one of the best deep threats in the entire class. So if they're losing Terry McLaurin, I think it's a no-brainer to get a guy like Pickens. With the 29th overall pick, the New York Jets select Nakobe Dean, a linebacker from Georgia. Jets are bad. They need talent. Nakobe Dean is arguably the best linebacker in the class. It's between him and Devin Lloyd, and I think if the Jets can get him at pick 29, kind of a no-brainer. He can be one of their starting linebackers immediately, or if they get rid of a guy like C.J. Mosley, Nakobe Dean can fill that hole right away. With the 30th overall pick, the New York Jets select Christian Watson, a wide receiver from North Dakota State. One of the most athletically gifted receivers in the entire class. He's another guy like George Pickens, super tall, super fast, great deep threat. But with Christian Watson, who is 6'4", he's also an extremely good returner. So I think he just provides tremendous value to a team like the Jets, who isn't going to compete this year. But if they can get a guy with as high of upside as Christian Watson, he can build a rapport with Zach Wilson and Elijah Moore, and they can be one of the best trios in the entire league in a couple years. With the 31st overall pick, the Cincinnati Bengals select Trey McBride, a tight end out of Colorado State. Hayden Hurst is not their tight end of the future. I think that's pretty safe to say. They pretty much fixed their offensive line this year in free agency, so I don't think they're super rushed to take an offensive lineman at pick 31. So why not get Trey McBride? In this year's draft, I believe he is the best tight end, and I think he's probably one of the safer picks they can take. He's one of the safer guys they can take at pick 31, and I think he'd be probably an instant starter right away, or he'd sit behind Hayden Hurst for a little bit like Philly did with Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz. But I think if he's not a starter this year, he'd be the day one starter in his sophomore year. And with the 32nd overall pick, the Carolina Panthers select Desmond Ridder, a quarterback out of Cincinnati. And this is the third and final trade for this mock draft. Detroit trades pick 32 to Carolina for future picks and possibly players. I didn't really go too in-depth on that one. But Carolina gets their franchise quarterback. It's obviously not Sam Darnold. So get Desmond Ridder, who rose his stock tremendously this year. And I mean, extremely athletic. And a guy like Matt Rule, who this could be his last year as a head coach in the NFL, because I don't know if Carolina's going to keep him after this year if they do bad. Take a shot, get him his quarterback, and hopefully that team can improve. And I think putting Desmond Ridder on a team with guys like DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Terrace Marshall, Chuba Hubbard, and obviously Christian McCaffrey, that's one of the best situations a rookie quarterback can go to in this year's draft. So I think it's kind of a no-brainer for Carolina. Get your franchise guy and hope it works out. But as always, I am your host, Parker Striha, and this has been the Striha Sports Podcast. Our random sport fact of the day is that the Indianapolis Colts and the Los Angeles Rams have each held the number 1 overall pick 7 times. As always, thank you for tuning in, and don't forget to hit that notification bell for whenever a new video gets posted.